Autism and depression. What can it look like? How is it different to burnout? Today we'll look more closely at depression, including some key ways it differs from burnout. It's interesting because there are a couple of really counterintuitive things when it comes to depression, which we'll explore. Plus, I'll debunk a very widely believed myth that might be making your depression worse. Hi everyone, Paul Mikolev here from Autism from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So in the adult autistic community, we talk about burnout a lot. What causes burnout? How do I get over burnout? Things like that. One of the lesser talked about issues is depression. It's a close cousin of burnout. Sometimes it looks a little bit the same, but it does have some features that are quite different. I've recently realized that for me personally, what I thought was a lack of energy and a problem with motivation and executive function, very, very similar to burnout, was actually depression, which has been really good in a way to name it accurately, and that feels like a really positive step. But the frustrating part is because depression is such a common thing in society these days, it's difficult to find helpful support. I remember when I first went to my GP about depression and similar things about 20 years ago now, actually, I was horrified, like really shocked and appalled at the type of help that I was offered. I mean, they definitely recommended professional psychological help and things like that, which in hindsight was pretty good. But the general advice, I got this pamphlet that basically said, have you tried meditation and exercise? Because that helps most people. And I thought, well, yes, of course I've tried them. If I hadn't tried them, I wouldn't be going to the doctor because obviously I would try them first. That was what was going through my mind at the time. So because it's so common for so many other people, I feel like if I have already tried everything I know how to try, everything that society tells us is a good idea to try when it comes to a certain issue, then that's the challenge of getting help beyond that point when everything commonly recommended hasn't worked very well. And that's one of the most challenging factors, since external things like daily stress and anxiety and things like that can have a huge impact on mood. So is the solution to fix all of those external things, or is there something else that I could be doing? I don't know about you, but I tend to be a bit of a fighter when it comes to external challenges. I'm like, right, I'm going to just keep pushing and figure out eventually, I've got a lot of confidence, I'll just work out a way somehow to overcome this challenge. And when the challenge is burnout, I still apply the same philosophy. Right, there must be some way for me to reduce these external stresses in my life. And that's great, it's very helpful to some degree, but what happens when I have already taken away those external stresses, when I've already dealt with the burnout, and there is still clearly something else that's unresolved that is underlying everything? Psychologists will often tell you that negative emotions come from negative thoughts. And there are therapies like CBT that help to break those negative thought spirals. But what if I don't have negative thoughts? What if that's going fairly well? What if I've dealt with the stress and anxiety in my life? And what if I'm no longer burnt out and I still experience depression? What's going on there? I've been fighting this thing as if it's burnout, and in burnout, we tend to try to reduce the demands, and I'm doing too much and I need to slow down. Whereas with depression, I'm already slowed down. I feel like I'm going so slowly and I can't move and I don't have energy to move. So with depression, what I want to do is get up, speed up, get some energy back so I can start living life again. The analogy that speaks strongest to me is like swimming through molasses or some other kind of really viscous liquid. You just can't get momentum. I used to think it was a problem with energy. Why do I have so little energy all the time? And now I'm thinking it's actually not a problem of energy. It's a problem of momentum. When I'm trying to swim through this stuff, I'm burning all of my energy just to make a little bit of progress. And then when I'm out of energy, I've got no momentum. I also ride my bike around the city a little bit. And I'm not a professional rider. I tend to have the ability to have a really short burst of energy, and then I kind of have to coast just for a little bit. So that works for little hills, and you're going up the hill, and I'm just putting in this effort for maybe a minute, and then when I get to the top of the hill, I can just relax. But if the hill just keeps going and just keeps going and just keeps going, then the second I take my foot off the accelerator, then I stop going, I stop moving, I stop making progress, I start going backwards, I start having to hold on so that I don't go backwards. So that's not a problem with my energy as such, it's a problem with the inability to build momentum. But of course, the felt experience of that is everything is hard, waking up is hard, breathing in is hard, breathing out is hard, sitting doing nothing is hard. It's a really strange, counterintuitive phenomenon, but for me, sitting with nothing to do, just relaxing, is harder and takes more energy than exercise or a job that I have to do or some other task that it's necessary and I have to get up on my feet and run errands or go shopping or something like that. Those types of things take less energy than just sitting. And it blows my mind how that works. But when you think about momentum, it kind of makes sense, because when I'm out of the house, I've got these external things telling me what to do next and reminding me where I am. And that takes away a lot of the executive function load that is pressing down on me when I'm at home alone and there's nothing that I need to do. A little bit like how it's a lot easier to do a workout as part of a class at the gym as opposed to just doing weights by yourself or doing some other kind of exercise by yourself. The executive function of choosing what to do and deciding what to do has been outsourced to the coach yelling at me, telling me what to do. And the task of motivating myself to actually do it has also been outsourced. Everyone else in the class is doing the same thing. I don't want to fall behind. There's a lot of pressure there. And weirdly, that pressure helps to keep the momentum. And this reminds me of a really big myth that I used to believe, and I'm starting to wonder if this is one of the reasons I'm still struggling so much with depression. I used to believe that logic and willpower were more important and more powerful than emotions. I used to think so long as I know, so long as I can figure out intellectually, analytically, what the best thing to do in this situation is, then I can just push myself to do it and that will be the best thing. And now what I'm realizing is that knowing what to do is like having a map. But if you don't have fuel in the tank, you can't actually get there. And emotions are the motivation and the energy and the fuel that actually allow us to get there and do the things that we want to do. Think about something that is really motivating for you. There's kind of a felt sense of that, right? It's not just an idea that's motivating. The idea excites me and now I have energy to actually do the thing. Or maybe you've had the opposite experience of knowing intellectually what you should do and not having the motivation to do it. The one that resonates the most with me is, I know I should get up now, but my bed is warm and I'm tired and I don't want to get up. So that's why I start my day with something I really enjoy, like going for a walk, which can motivate me to get out of bed because I'll be doing something that I actually want to do. So I talk about this quite a bit in my book, The Myth That Logic and Reason Trumps Emotion. Actually, we need both. And when it comes to depression, it's predominantly an emotional thing. It's a mood, it's an energy. My body feels, we use that word, feels depressed. So the question is, how can I give my body more energy? If I was burnt out, I've used all my fuel already. Whereas for depression, it's like I've got a huge stockpile of fuel, but I'm not burning it. It's not going through the system. So I'm looking for things to activate me, to motivate me, to want to use the energy that I've got. If I was actually burnt out, if I actually had no energy, then the only option is to rest to recuperate that energy. But if I've been resting long enough and it seems like sleeping more is just making the situation worse, then maybe I need some kind of activating activity to really get me going. That's actually one of the things that I learned from tracking my sleep, and I did a few videos on that. But if I get too much sleep, I feel terrible. This thing has a recommended sleep, like it tells me to get 100% sleep. And I find if I get about 90% sleep, I feel great. And if I start getting 100% every night, I just feel terrible. So for me, recognizing my own depression has been really helpful in literally flipping my strategy from need more rest to need more activation. And it's also just helped a lot psychologically to recognize the situation that I'm in. Instead of swimming through this molasses every day thinking, why is it so hard? It shouldn't be hard. Actually, it just is hard. Maybe it's fine for the moment. And the fact that I've named it means it's not going to last forever. Means that yes, it's really hard today. Yes, I've got no motivation today. So I'll just have to feel crap today and go through the motions anyway without any motivation. But my focus is on how can I spark that energy to create a little bit of motivation so that I've got a little bit more motivation tomorrow. And this is one of the spirals for me with depression, is that when nothing is motivating, there's nothing to look forward to. And then even when I get to something that should be nice, that I normally enjoy, I just don't enjoy it, which feels incredibly unfair because I've planned this fun thing that I am hoping will help to re-energize me. And then it just seems to do almost nothing. So that's, I guess, a really good example of the difficulty building momentum. If everything was going well, then I would do a little thing and it would give me more energy to do the next thing, which would give me more energy to do the next thing. And when that cycle just isn't working very well, then that's one of the things that can sometimes lead to depression. I'm also on record for saying that I think everyone should have a mental health professional, just like everyone has a GP. You know, for their physical health, we should have a mental health professional to help us with our mental and emotional health. I won't go into the difference between those two things at the moment. So I've done a couple of videos, which I'll link in the cards, on tips for mental health as well, which I recommend checking out. I don't know if you can relate to some of the experiences I've shared today, but please leave a comment if you can. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, thanks for watching today. I hope you're feeling better than me, and I will see you next week. Bye.